Hello, everyone. We are going to start with the introductory session of Advanced Performance Management for March 2025 attempt. My name is Zaira and I will be your facilitator for APM paper, right? So, before starting with the introduction of APM, it's extremely important to introduce the paper to the students that what is this paper actually about, right? So if I want to introduce APM paper, generally there are three questions that comes into the mind. The first question is what is advanced performance management, right? And how this is different from performance management or previously what we know about previously which we know F5, and how it is different from the other ACCA papers, right? So let's start this one by one. See, what is advanced performance management? Advanced performance management means that in this case, examiner is, see, in ACCA, we have three levels, right? There is F2 level, there is F5 level, and then there is P5 level, or this is FMA level, then this is PM level, and this is APM level, right? So if you see the sequence of ACCA has divided the whole performance management and management accounting into three different parts, right? So when students were in F2 paper, they were treated as a clerical person, like someone who should know the basic things, basic terminologies of management accounting. So if you see the F2 paper, it's mostly about number crunching and the basic concepts like what is material, what is labor, what are the overheads, what is process costing, absorption costing, marginal costing, and there's so many things. Then if you move towards from F2 to F5, which is basically this paper, examiner treat you like a managerial level, like you are in the technical level of the organization. So what you are supposed to do, you are supposed to take a lot of decisions with respect to the performance management. You have to decide about performance management. You have to take decisions. You have to decide about costing methods. So you are at a higher level. So you are not supposed to do only number crunching. Rather, you also have to do some sort of managerial work, right? So that was purely F5. Now you have to treat yourself that ACC exam that someone has given you again a promotion, and now you got promoted to a strategic level. So when you are at a strategic level, what is the basic idea? What is the basic requirement from you? Basically, you are supposed to see, you are not supposed to do a lot of workings, right? Workings will be done by someone else. What you will get, you are supposed to get some reports, and on the basis of those reports, you are supposed to analyze the situation and come up to a conclusion that what should be done, what the company is doing right now, and what decisions they can take in future, right, to improve the performance. So that's basically what the P5 is, right? So in P5, mostly questions or topics which you will see are examined from the strategic level perspective. Like for example, let's take the example of activity based costing. If you see activity based costing in F5, generally it's like calculate cost per unit under activity based costing, how why overheads have been changed in the specific way, or some number crunching and some basic theory is generally required in F5. If you move towards P5, the same topic is examined in a very different manner. Now examiner will give you certain situation like companies producing these many products, companies doing company situation will be given in the question, and examiner will probably ask you to analyze the situation and come up to a conclusion, probably evaluate the situation whether activity based costing will be a relevant a costing method for the company, or what do you think if company moves towards activity based costing, how a company will get the benefit from it, right? Considering the above scenario. So that's basically what the APM is. So in APM, the same topics which are in F5. I mean, let's talk about the common topics. So if there are common topics, but still the way of asking question will be extremely different in APM paper. So if someone asks me what is the difference between F5 and P5, the difference is the way examiner is giving you the questions, the way examiner is approaching towards the students, the way examiner wants the students to answer the questions. Like, for example, let's take the example of target costing, right? Target costing is common in both papers. But in performance management, target costing is generally examiner will ask you to calculate expected cost, calculate the cost gap, and how the company can reduce the cost gap. So these are generally 2 to 3 areas in target costing. But if you move towards P5, you will see a lot of different things. I mean, like for example, there can be some ethical issues, there can be some labor related issues, there will be some macroeconomic factors probably, and along with some calculations. So so the way of asking the question is quite broad in advanced performance management as compared with F5. Similarly, there's one term which is introduced in APM paper and which is generally asked a lot of different times. I mean, mostly examiner asks you to evaluate a certain situation. So that is generally not the term in F5. So this is a very interesting term. We will discuss this in future, but evaluation means you have to evaluate the whole scenario with your understanding that why what you are thinking. So obviously it's an open ended question generally, so you are supposed to analyze the situation and act accordingly. So that's basically the difference between performance management and advanced performance management. And how this is different from the other papers, see, there are a lot of topics which you will still see you have studied before, like SWOT analysis is something which the students already know before coming to APM paper. Pest analysis is something which generally students know up before they, I mean, when they start their APM paper. But still, the way of asking the question is extremely different. Like, let's suppose examiner is asking you to perform. Examiner will not ask you to perform the SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. This is something which you have already done. Now, examiner will probably ask you to make some KPIs, to develop some KPIs for the areas where the company is weak, for the areas where company is having some opportunities, for the areas where the company is facing some threats. Like for example, there is an opportunity that company can adopt artificial intelligence probably in order to gain the competitive benefit, right? This is an opportunity which we are seeing. Now what will be the KPI for that? I mean, what areas, what sort of KPIs we can choose in order to measure whether we are grabbing the opportunity or not, right? For example, there is a threat, like for example, there is a threat that the company may violate carbon dioxide emission, or maybe company can violate some climate related regulations. So you need to develop a KPI which will continuously monitor how the company is, I mean, how close company is with the maximum level allowed for a company, right? So that's basically how examiner examine. And obviously, weakness is something where we are weak. You need to understand how company is improving day by day with respect to how the company was in the initial period. So that's basically how examiner will ask you the questions, right? So that's something which is quite different from the other papers. So in other papers, and that's basically a sort of complaint from the examiner that the students examiner says that students generally attempt these sort of topic because these are quite easy topics. So examiner says that the students are attempting these topics in a very similar manner as they did before. However, in APM paper, the requirement is quite different, right? So you have to unlearn the way you were attempting these sort of questions, these sort of topics, and then you have to relearn how you are supposed to do in APM paper, right? So this is a very brief introduction. So if I want to summarize an APM paper, you are supposed to be like act like a consultant, where you have to analyze the situation and give your opinion how you believe that the company may improve its performance, how the company can continue, how what strategies company should use, something like that, right? So let's move to the syllabus of advanced performance management. So how I have structured the question is not according to the question, the topics which are given in the paper in the book, but these are according to how I teach, right? So generally, I start with these three topics, which is activity-based costing and activity-based management. Activity-based costing is something which we already know. Activity-based management is something which the company, which is a new topic for students. So generally, I start with this because this is a very easy topic for students. So generally, we start with activity-based costing and activity-based management, where this is a very different part. This is something which the students are generally, I believe that the students have no idea about it. Then target costing, it's the same topic, but which the students know, which is a part of F5, and now it's part of APM2. In my opinion, frequency is comparatively low of target costing. You can expect 8 to 10 marks question in APM paper, and obviously it will be part of any part of a different question, like in part A, part B, or part C. So probably in part B or C, examiner may ask you to perform some target costing thing, right? In mostly, generally. Um, Risk and uncertainty is comparatively a frequent topic in APM paper. Risk and uncertainty includes maximax, maximin, minimax regret, expected value, um, standard deviation. So these topics are generally examined in APM paper, but examiner will not ask you to calculate the standard deviation. Rather, examiner will try to ask the interpretation of a standard deviation, because at a strategic level, no one is supposed to calculate the standard deviation of it in any situation, right? So you must understand the logic of standard deviation. Along with that maximax, maximum, you should understand how to perform that, right? Initially, I think examiner has given some few questions at the early phases. Now the frequency has been reduced, but still there are chances that examiner can ask maximax, maximat, and minimax regret criteria from students, right? And then there is combined probability. Combined probability is something which I believe it's a part of your APM paper, but there are very, very, very less chances that you will see this in paper. So if you want to skip something, this is the topic which you can skip, right? Then we will move towards performance measurement. Now, performance measurement generally comes in section A. When I'm saying that it generally comes in section A, it doesn't mean that it will not be the part of B and C. You can find one complete question of performance measurement in section A and in section B too, right? So that's quite possible. So performance measurement is quite heavy, and that generally comes with in section A, 50-mark question. But obviously, performance measurement does not have that much material to be asked for a 50 marks question. So generally, what examiner do is examiner generally combine it with some other topics like ethical issues, maybe some quality related issues, maybe benchmarking, maybe some other a topic, so that in order to make it a 50 marks question, IT related thing sort of. So this is something which we will specifically focus on in our live session. So this is a very important topic, and without this, probably you won't be able to pass the paper because this is in section A, right? Then quality is a topic which includes Lean and Six Sigma, right? This is a new topic for you all because this is something which has not been included in any other paper. Responsibility center is something which the students generally know: cost center, profit center, revenue centers, and investment center. Now this has been, the way of asking question is again quite different. I mean, this is the part of F2, this was the part of F5, but in APM paper, it's more from the strategic perspective. Like, for example, there was a question, still water company, where examiner has given a very different situation. Where examiner has said that, look, the company is providing water services to a region, and government is regulating that industry, that company, in order to because since water is a necessity, so the government doesn't want the company to charge extra amount from the customers. So the maximum return on capital employed is, so the limit has been set at 6%, right? So, and then you have to analyze the performance. So what the students misunderstood was that, because generally, if I say that the targeted ROCE is 6%, generally we are supposed to meet, beat that target. We are supposed to generate income which is going to have 12% ROC or maybe 8% ROC. But this was a question where you were not supposed to generate ROC more than 6%, because that means that you are charging extraordinary profits from the customer. So these sort of situation you have to you have to prepare yourself that you need to understand the question properly, that what they are actually trying to ask from you. That's quite important. An examiner, generally there was a comment from examiner, the majority misunderstood this question, because majority said that, I think it was 5.9% ROCE. So majority said that the company wasn't able to meet the target. However, the company actually met the target because it was not more than 6%, right? So that's the way of asking question is quite different here. Economic value added, this is a new term which has been added in a new concept which has been added in APM paper. This is the advanced version of residual income. We will discuss this in our recorded lectures, and obviously this is an extremely important paper topic, because it typically focus on the performance measurement, and it generally allow us to why I mean not it generally gives us a room to not strictly follow the accounting practices, and we can calculate our own profit for the sake of performance measurement. Let me give you a very simple example. Let's suppose that, I'm just giving you a basic idea of what EVA is. For example, let's suppose you have spent around 10 million, 5 million in advertisement expenditure in December, right? And you are expecting that its benefit will arise for in next 2 years, right? So what generally accounting says that you cannot capitalize any advertisement expenditure. So what you will do, you have to charge this 5 million from this year, right? And then the benefit will come in the next 2 years. Let's suppose this is 2024. The benefit will arise in 2025 and 26. So you benefit will come in this part of the P&L, and the expenses in this part of the P&L. So EVA generally says that it's not a good idea to do so. So EVA says that no, let's suppose 5 million is the cost, so 2.5 million should be charged in both year in order to make sure that the performance is correct. So that's basically the logic, that you are not supposed to follow rigidly the accounting policies. You can for the sake of only performance measurement, you can you can modify certain rules, but just for the sake of performance measurement. So that's something EVA is. It's quite interesting topic. We'll discuss it. Transfer pricing is something which we already know, but in this case transfer pricing is along with taxation problem, because taxation is something which has not been examined in performance management, F5 paper. Along with that, taxation, in APM paper, there are highly like less, there are less chances that examiner will ask you to calculate the transfer price. More chances are that examiner will say that, okay, fine. See, the company is using cost plus pricing model, transfer pricing for the transfer pricing policy, and the company wants to switch to market based transfer pricing policy. So, considering the scenario, whatever the scenario is given, how evaluate the proposal of the manager, let's suppose. So you have to see the pros and cons, that what will be the benefit, what can be the disadvantages of using this, probably why the manager is interested in such change. So that's how APM in transfer pricing will be asked in APM. It's not typically calculate the transfer price. It's more towards uh, more towards it's more towards the analysis part, right? And then performance measurement in not-for-profit making organization. This is something which is the part of just a second. Performance measurement in not-for-profit making organization is something which is the part of F5 paper, but it's also the part of APM paper. And in APM paper, the depth of not-for-profit making organization is quite high. You can see 25 marks complete question for not for profit making organization. So, and it's quite frequent in APM paper. So that's a quite important topic. Then syllabus of APM also, then it also includes Toyota production system, which is the concept of lean manufacturing. It's a new topic. IT, extremely important in APM paper. BPR is quite frequent. Pricing is something which is generally not the part of APM paper, so you can skip easily for pricing topic. But you should have a basic understanding of cost plus pricing, markup, margin in order to use it in different areas. Budgeting is something which is the part of APM paper, but it's not typical number crunching paper topic. It's like examiner will give you a situation, and probably examiner will ask you that, look, this is the situation, and what do you think, whether the company should continue using incremental budgeting, or whether the company should move to rolling budgets, or company should move to zero based budgeting, or how in the current situation how the zero based budgeting can be beneficial for the company. So you have to connect the theory with the question. So that's how budgeting can be examined. There are very less likely chances that examiner will ask you to do some numbers here. And even if examiners asking you to do some calculation, it will be some basic calculation, not those F2 type production budget and sales budget, right? Then environmental management accounting, it's also part of F5. Now it's also the part of APM paper. In APM, it has more depth. Depth in the sense that it can be asked. Uh, I mean, examiner can easily ask a 25 marks question in it. Like for example, by including some ethical issues, by including some quality issues, or maybe putting some numbers in it. There are quite possible chances that examiner will ask you a 25 marks complete question from EMA. This can also be the part of section A. Human resource management, value based management. These are two topics which are new for you. Value based management also includes economic value added. We will discuss it when we will do the topic. Performance prism and ESG. So these are few topics, but along with that, I'm not discussing something, but that is also the part of APM. Some business model like pest analysis, SWOT analysis, boost and consultant growth metrics, 7S model. I mean, there is a list of different models which you have already studied. Those are also the part of APM paper. Examiner for exam format is quite simple. There are two sections. Section A, 50 marks case study. Section B is of 25 marks, where out of 50 marks, 40 marks are for technical knowledge, 10 marks are for professional marks, and 25 marks, 20 technical marks, and 5 professional marks. That's quite simple. Um, what are the common issues of APM paper? See, generally, we are not supposed to discuss these things in the first session. But what I believe, why I am discussing this, because I believe it's extremely important for students to understand the issues which they may face while attempting the questions at their own, or studying their APM paper, going for a mock paper. What problems they can face? Generally, they struggle in understanding the question requirement. Now, this is not the issue of students, by the way. In APM paper, there is a strange habit of doesn't examiner will not give requirements in requirement section, right? Let me give you a very basic example for that. Mm, I hope it, yeah, okay. So let's take this example. Let's suppose this is the question and this is the requirement. So if you see the requirement, what is the requirement? Write a report to the board of MEDI to respond to instructions to work on the following areas: performance based reporting and level of cleanness. The examiner is not asking you what you are supposed to do in performance reporting. That you have to go back to the question and figure out what was the basic requirement, right? Similarly, transfer pricing proposal. That's it. You are supposed to go back to the examination paper and see what are the requirements. So this embedded requirement is something which is the part of APM paper, and somehow students miss the requirement uh, while attempting the question, because there are 3 to 4 things which you are supposed to do in one question, right? Time management issues are extremely common in APM paper. I believe because of 2 reasons. The first reason is that they don't practice the paper, because see, there is a very common thing, especially in Asian countries. I have seen this, maybe in other countries as well. When you ask the student, let's suppose if a student is preparing for variance analysis or maybe something from AFM, what they will do, if it's a number crunching topic like variances or derivatives, they will do question practice, practice, practice of the question unless and until they are comfortable in that topic. But if there is any topic which is theoretical, like quality, like ethics, like any other topic, if it's theory, students will not write the answer. Student will write the bullet points, and then students will go to the examiner answer and see whether what the bullet points they have written, whether that is also the part of the examiner solution. And if their bullet points matches with examiner answer, they believe that they did right, and then they move on. So now what is the problem in this approach? The problem is that you are not practicing the how to answer the paper, right? So when you will go in the examination and when you will see the paper, when you will start attempting the paper, you will start actually practicing the question paper. You don't, because you haven't wrote that paper before, right? Answer before. So that basically consumes a lot of time because the students don't know how to structure their answers. Second thing is that it's a honey trap, because sometimes there is a very easy question and you know what really you have to write. So students write too much, and that's a problem. So I believe time management issue can be figured out in 2 ways. The first way is to start practicing the past papers by writing them. Right, that's the most important point. And when I'm saying writing them, that means writing within a specified time period. Like, for example, if it's section A, then you are supposed to complete section A within 1 hour and 50 30 minutes, right? In 1.5 hours, you are supposed to complete your section A, right? If you are attempting section B question, then probably in 30 to 40 minutes, you are supposed to complete your one question of section B. Because if you develop this habit, probably you will be able to do good in your exam, right? So that's the most important point for this. There was one more point I just forgot. We will discuss it later. They don't. The second point is to see the marking is key, because if it's a 10-mark question, because if it's a 10-mark question, how you are supposed to attempt it. Generally, you have to aim for 5 marks, 5 points. Sorry, Control Z. So you are supposed to aim for 5 points. 5 points in the sense. Let's suppose examiner is asking you to evaluate certain things, so you have to, first of all, you have to identify which points you have to write, and then you have to do the evaluation and then justification, right? We will discuss how to write the answer in our sessions. So 10 marks means 5 points you have to generally focus on, and then you have to focus on how to get those 2 points. I mean, from every point, how to get 2 marks, right? So that's basically what you have to practice. If you don't consider the marking scheme, definitely you will do wrong, right? And there was a student who asked me, when I was explaining this, there was a student who asked me that how much we should write, because I was continuously saying that you have to write short and then you have to complete the point. So I said that, look, you can explain your point, you can explain what you want to say in 5 lines, you can also explain the complete picture in 3 lines. So if you're writing 3 lines, you are in the league. If you're writing 5 lines, that means you are in the danger zone. That's the point. Simple. Okay. They don't know how to get the professional marks. This is not a this is something which we'll discuss in our session. Don't consider the marking scheme. That's something which I said. And in case of unsuccessful attempt, they don't know what actually went wrong. And that's something which is extremely important because, see, I have seen students who came up to me and they said, "Ma'am, this I have flunked APM paper 3 times." And when I said, "Have you asked someone else to check your paper?" They said no. I said, I generally believe that asking someone else to check your paper is an extremely important thing because if you are writing your answer, you generally cannot understand where actually you went wrong. But if you are asking your tutor to mark your answer sheet, that's basically is going to make the difference because that someone else is seeing your answer script, someone else is going to evaluate your answer, and that's the most important point. And that's important because I believe that when I have started doing this exercise in my classes, I am reasonably sure that students, if students are writing first time their answer, 90% students write the answer in a very inappropriate manner. Inappropriate manner in the sense they don't know how to express how they should express their answer in APM paper. I mean, they are writing the correct answer, but they will not get the full marks for that because they don't know the etiquettes of writing in APM paper, and that's the most important thing, right? And how you can improve this? See, the most important thing is to read a book. Whether you read Kaplan, whether you read BBP, whether you need some other notes, whether you follow ACCA Education Hub, whatever you want to follow, you should at least read the paper, read the book, at least one book. Why? Because there are certain things where examiner, I mean, mostly APM paper is about the application of knowledge, right? But sometimes in exam, you can find a topic, a question where you know, you are supposed to replicate what was in the book along with the application. Like there was a question in APM paper about the league table, right? And examiner has asked you. There was a very short scenario, I think 3 to 4 line scenario given in the question, and examiner has asked that how league table, what will be the benefit of a league table for this company, right? It was a DP police question. So that was the point where I thought that it's a very short scenario, so you cannot extract, I think it was 12 marks or 14 marks requirement, so you cannot extract material for 12 or 14 marks from that paragraph, so you have to bring something from your own in that case. So that's why I believe you should at least study the advantages, disadvantages of a lot of the topics which are the part of your syllabus, because that's something which can help you to construct your answer in exam paper, right? Then again, the read all the requirements very carefully, and you are supposed to address all the answers. That's something which will come with practice. Apply all your knowledge to the business line. Now, this is something which is extremely important because examiner is continuously complaining that the students are writing generalized answer, but they are not connecting it with the scenario. Like, for example, there is a question which has been asked. There was a question called mock. I think it was in 2018 paper where examiner has asked students to write the basic characteristics of service organization. Now, this is something which we all know, which we all know what are the basic characteristics of service organization. But examiner specifically asks the students to write it with respect to the company. That why you, what are the characteristics, and are you seeing these characteristics in Colmog, and can Colmog be classified as a service organization? That was the point where actually missed student missed their marks because the students wrote the general properties of service organization. So these sort of things, without application, applying the knowledge, despite of the fact you are writing correct, you are not connecting it with the scenario, probably you won't be able to get the marks, right? So that's extremely important. Justification is something which without which you cannot pass your APM paper. Now it's a very big statement. Justification in the sense whatever you are writing in your APM paper, that should be justified with something with some evidence. Like, for example, you are saying that, hey, the company is not doing well and the company should do this. Probably it's a correct answer, but you will not get marks. Let me give you a very basic idea of that. I hope I can add one slide. Yeah, I can add it here. Let's suppose that the company's objective is to become number one hotel chain in a region, right? And they are measuring this by using a KPI of sales growth. That they are saying that if my sales will grow, that means ultimately we will become number one hotel in the region. And you are saying this and you are saying, no, this is not a correct KPI. The company should not use this. Company should use market share because that is showing a better picture, right? So probably you are correct, but you will not get marks. Why? Because you have not told the company, I mean the CEO, why sales growth is not why this is an inappropriate KPI, and why you believe that market share is a better KPI. So that why is extremely important in APM paper. Without justification, your whatever you are writing is meaningless. So whether you are saying that the company is doing, I'm not satisfied with the company's performance. I mean, the company is not doing correctly, and this thing should be done. Why the company is not doing correctly? That should be there, and the reason behind your justification should also be there. That why you think that this is a better indicator. There are chances that examiner will say that sometimes you agree that whatever the company is doing is correct. In that case also you are supposed to justify, because you have to tell the CEO that, look, this is the reason why I believe that the company is doing correct things, and you are not supposed to change anything. Continue them with using incremental budgeting approach. So again, that why is extremely important, and this why is generally missing in students answer, and that's basically where they are unable to pass the paper and they really don't know what actually went wrong. Practice as many as questions as you can, and read the examiner comments, read what examiners are complaining, read what other people are mostly doing wrong. That's something which we'll cover in our live sessions. Now, this is something which we will be doing in our live sessions, right? You will get the recorded lectures. You will get the LMS access of recorded lecture. There will be regular live sessions with the students. We will be doing some specific part of our live sessions with which will cover examiner report and professional marks. WhatsApp support will be there. This is something which I ask generally students to do, but they are quite lazy in that. I ask students to share their answer script so that I can give my feedback to them. The more feedback you will get on your answer script, the more improve. I mean, you will be able to improve your answer in a proper manner, right? There's one more thing which I have not written here that also I do with students is that on demand meeting. Like, for example, if there is a student who did 2 weeks, who has covered a lot of things in 2 weeks, and he or she believes that I'm not sure in 5 areas and 5 points, and he can request me to have a meeting so that I can have a one-to-one meeting with him or her. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Let's see, subject to the nature of the query, and we can sort that problem out. Mock paper and debriefing session. This is something which I generally do. Debriefing session, I believe debriefing session are good, but it's also important to have feedback on mock papers. So if you solve your answer scripts, so if you solve your mock papers, you can share your mock papers with me so that I can have a one-to-one discussion, and I can give you feedback. This is basically the point, the lectures which will be the part of APM paper, right? Overall, total duration of APM paper is overall 93 hours, right? Total APM duration is 93 hours. I am around 100 hours because, um, I mean, if you consider the live session, it's almost 100 hours, right? So section A, which is ABC, APM, target costing, risk and uncertainty, I have allocated around 8 hours for that. Performance measurement, which is section A, this is the most important part of APM paper. So there will be around 30 hours allocated for that. It also covers a lot of different topics like quality related issues, benchmarking, maybe PPR. Those are topics are generally covered in the same part, right? Other topics which include some miscellaneous topics like EMA, EMA, maybe value-based management and other topics. Those are covered here. Budgeting sections are budgeting will be around 17 hours. Recorded live session, all those sessions which we already did in I think last year are generally the part will be the part of your LMS. Recap of APM paper. This is something which I have recently developed. Basically, this is a recording of a webinar where I have recorded where a student specifically asked me to do a complete recap of APM paper. So it we did it around 2 hours and 2 hours and 15 minutes. So that's something which I generally give to a student, and I ask them to, if I mean, when you are approaching towards final paper, try to listen to that webinar because that will help you to recall the whole APM paper. And then obviously there will be live sessions in the coming session, right? And how and when there will be live sessions, see, this today we are going to have introductory session, right? The first live session will be on 22nd of December, and we will do one question from section B. I generally start with section B because it's a easier one. Section A is quite difficult. So generally I start with section B. That session will be on 22nd of December. Then we will move towards section A. I kept all sessions on Sundays because Sunday is off for all. So that's generally when I keep the session. So section A, there will be one session, one live session on 5th January, then 19th January, then 2nd February, and then 9th February. So there will be around 5 live sessions specifically focused on examiner comments, professional marks, how to attempt the paper, what you should do, what you should not do, answer scripts of few students, uh, identifying what the students generally make, what the mistakes the students generally make, right? And then there will be mock paper and debriefing session. This is something which I will announce in future, right? So that's something which is the which I just wanted to discuss in orientation session of APM paper, right? So if you want to take the admission, you can request the management, and they can definitely give you access to the paper, and they will discuss everything with you, right? So that's all for today. Thank you. Take care. Allah Hafiz.